God is moving. It's Young People Nation.
Welcome to Young People Nation. Listen to us weekly as we commit to bring transparency, healing, and truth to the everyday situations in life that might bring you down. Join us for your weekly dose of inspiration. Thank you for listening to Young People Nation. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now, here's your host, Eugene and Donna Perry.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day, whatever time you're listening to the podcast, and welcome to Young People Nation. And today, we are excited about our guests that we have today. We have a young man, and I say a young man. He goes by Levi. He's known in the community as Levi. I work with him as Brian. Now, his story as a teen versus an adult is phenomenal. And he's achieved very high in CEO positions in the work community, and then life happened. Now, one thing, Brian is very active in the community, working with the Hell Foundation, the Bridges of Hope, and Pyramid Healthcare. We are excited for these sessions that we're about to encounter with Brian. Levi, we're going to stick with Levi because that's how the community know him, right?
Okay, yeah, Levi's good.
Yes. Young People Nation, the Perrys are excited to talk with Levi.
Amen.
So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, absolutely. Now, in this session, we want to talk about how having bad behavior as a teen affected your life process. So let's talk about the 15-year-old Brian and his way of looking at life.
At 15, there was things going on in my life where my perspective was skewed, right? Mm-hmm. I played victim to what was going on in my life. My father had left us, a few years earlier, and he was struggling with alcoholism and drug addiction and had some abandonment issues, but I always felt like I was the victim. This happened to me, and if this had happened to you, you'd act this way too, or do some of the things that I was doing back then. But at 15, I was lost. I moved more away from my faith, started moving towards substances, and doing things in some ways to get attention, trying to get my dad's attention, to bring him back in a little bit, thinking maybe if I acted like him a little bit, he might come back and maybe he'd stop doing what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Probably the key thing. But my perspective at that age was playing victim. I had just had an injury. I played soccer, and that was really the first time I had been on narcotics, and I had knee surgery on my right knee. And I remember that moment when I took those painkillers. There was something there that made me feel better, and all the anxiety that I had, the fears I had, the worries, the stress I had in my life with a single mom and me and my twin brother, Derek, and my dad literally dying in front of us, watching that. Those painkillers and alcohol helped me, right, escape from that. It changed the way I felt,
I know when you go through life like that, any kind of temporary relief for any amount of time it seems to be welcomed. And with that welcome come with that, that's how these things start. I can remember back when myself watching my father drink and carry on and act the way he act, and then they always encouraged me to drink beer for football and all like that, and that little bit of leeway in between, that little gap of I'm no longer in this place of displeasure. It was so welcome.
It's temporary relief, and what I found out later was temporary relief to a permanent problem or long-term problem.
Yes.
One that I was unwilling to face, right?
Okay.
And the only thing that I could get a little relief in was temporary oblivion, really.
Right.
Because it helped me escape from those feelings. But it was temporary, and that's what happens is the cycle. you know, you get relief, right?
Yeah.
It changes the way you feel, you know,
Right.
and you want more,
Right.
And I think for somebody like me, what I'm addicted to more than anything is more. I'm addicted to more. Right? I can never
That's big.
Oh,
can
yeah.
never get enough, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how did you deal with depression and rebellion as a teen? Because in our conversation with you, you shared how you was rebellious and depressed due to what was happening in your life with your father leaving.
To answer your question, as far as how I dealt with it, it was with substances more than anything. My mom tried to get us to go see a therapist, and the things that had happened in my dad's alcoholism in our home, and then when he left, there were some things that I needed to address there that I didn't. Right, I didn't want to go. I went once or twice, but I wasn't comfortable talking and being transparent or even being honest. And I told my mom I didn't want to go back. But at the time, I was rebellious because I was trying to get my dad's attention. Right, I was, and for me, I think the rebellion was there because I was angry, right?
Okay.
I was angry with my father, but I didn't know how to express it, you know? And I wanted him to know that, you know, what he was doing was, you know, hurting our family, you know? And, you know, as far as dealing with it, it was really with substances. And I think that's why it never really got dealt with until later when I got healthy. Those things, it was like dealing with childhood trauma.
Wow. And so parents, I hope you're listening. At 15, you was dealing with substance abuse.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you was trying to alleviate a problem, and that substance abuse or the substance made you feel better.
It did. It did. And to be honest with you, I tell people this all the time, and I hate to call it a spiritual experience, but the first time I drank, right? And I had that feeling come over me where, you know, it was kind of a euphoric feeling, right? Kind of get warm in your belly a little bit. Things start tingling. You know, you kind of get to a place where you're not worried about too much.
Right.
It gives you some courage, right? And it made me feel like I was more acceptable and more liked. I felt more confident socially talking to people, you know, and all the insecurities that I had, all the fears that I had went away. Why wouldn't somebody that struggles with anxiety or depression or insecurity or fear, why wouldn't they want relief from that?
Right.
And for me at the time, that was the only thing that really gave me relief was, you know, drinking and turned into drugs later. And you know, unfortunately, you know, my father died drinking, you know, and he suffered a lot. And towards the end, I just needed it just as, it was medicine for me.
Okay.
It really was, you know. And it's hard to say that, you know, but looking back and being honest with myself, it was the only thing that comforted me a little bit because of the tragedy that, you know, I was watching with my father.
Right.
Wow.
At any time during that period, did any hankering came that it was your fault?
Yes.
I know with myself,
Absolutely.
with my father drinking and all, it was like, if I'd done this, if I had the courage to do something or the courage to tell him, and with that, it's a great entity that comes with that, and it's that guilt.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. So you guys felt guilty that it was your fault.
I think in some way, I remember the intervention we did with my father before he left the house and really abandoned his family, you know, moved north, ran from the law and creditors and everything else, you know. He was 1,000 miles away from us when he died and had been there for 4 years. But you're absolutely right. I felt like it was my fault because I remember in the intervention saying to him, Dad, we don't want you to go. Please stop drinking, you know. Right. We want you to be here and with us. And when he chose alcohol and cocaine over my mother, myself, and my brother, it was hard for me to accept, one. But I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, right? Yeah. You know, if he chose alcohol and drugs over me, there must be something with me that is the problem, right? And as a child, really just learning how to, deal with things emotionally, I absolutely felt guilt, and I didn't think I was worthy in some ways. I worshiped my father. I idolized him like any boy does. He was my
Yeah.
soccer
Right.
coach before my dad started drinking. He was my soccer coach. He was the vice president of a bank here locally. He was president of the Chamber of Commerce. He was a
Wow.
very charismatic fella,
Yes.
but
Right.
just engaging, When you were around him, you felt a really good energy. And I loved him so much. And what I thought is he didn't love me, right? He loved that more than he loved me.
Right.
And that stuck with me a long time, that, when you feel like the man that you idolize and love that much would choose to go with the alcohol and drugs rather than to stay with you or be with you, it's a scarring event. It's scarred.
And you made mention of how your mother has always been a woman of faith,
Oh my God.
strong woman of faith, and she had been praying for years,
Yeah,
but he still made that choice.
he did. And he comes from a long line of alcoholics. As a matter of fact, I'm a 4th generation alcoholic myself in recovery today, thank goodness. But
Yes.
my father's parents were both alcoholics. And my dad, they had 6 siblings, and 4 of them, including my father, died from alcoholism.
Wow.
So it's a disease that is misunderstood sometimes. But I want to get back to my mother.
Yes.
Yeah, I can talk about my mother all day, and I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for my mom. She has been such a wonderful influence. She's my mother, my best friend, my spiritual advisor. She has given me so much and helped me get to this place where I could recover, right? And
Yes.
not enabling, right, because she
Right.
knows better.
Yes.
But being supportive, and she's always prayed and hoped that I would get back on the right track.
Yes.
Right.
But there's no other person in my life that has influenced me
That's powerful.
better
Amen.
more than my mother.
Wow.
She is a true testimony to what a faith and a living relationship with God looks like.
That's powerful.
It's amazing. She's an amazing woman. And
Never give up
she
on
never
your
worked.
children.
She never worked. Okay, she was taking care of twin boys. Right.
Right.
We weren't always cooperative. My father leaves. My mom goes to work for the first time when I was 12. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And she built a career. She went to Kelly Temporary Services for a while. Then she got into banking, ironically,
Wow.
and was in human resources. And she did that for years and climbed the ladder and retired successfully.
Right.
And kept us from being homeless. She kept us from being hungry. She kept us connected spiritually in a way too, because she gave us an environment that was second to none. She gave us every opportunity to do the right thing.
Very present.
Right.
She's
Very
amazing.
present. So I want to ask you, when you went to counseling as a teenager, did it help you at all? Did you draw anything from it, or did you get what you gave in?
I didn't get anything from it, but let me explain. When I went, I was high, and
Right.
Okay.
and I don't remember much of it, just bits and pieces of it. So the only reason why I didn't get anything from it is because I wasn't present.
Right.
Okay. So that's important in counseling, to be present.
It is.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, in your journey, do you see yourself, because you've helped young boys in your journey, have you seen yourself in some of the young men?
them?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing when you deal with addicts and alcoholics, and the story looks the same, right?
Right.
There's a period of excitement and energy, right? That you think I can't live without this, right? This is wonderful. That turns into a struggle, right? Where
Right.
you can't live without it, and you become dependent on it, and then the tragedy, right? The tragedy at the end, and there's always a lot of the same characteristics. Maybe abandonment issues.
Right.
It could be trauma, right? It could be self-worth and value, self-esteem issues. All those things seem to come to light when we get honest and we talk to somebody about it. And that's the only way that I was able to do that. But helping men my age even, right, has been a great gift for me. I'm uniquely qualified to help addicts and alcoholics
Yes.
come out from under it, right? And recover and have a good life. because I didn't think I was going to be able to be happy without alcohol and drugs. I didn't think I was going to be, people were going to like me, right? I didn't think social events were going to be fun anymore. I didn't know how I would live without it, and people feel that way. So it's good to let them know I was just like you, right? I did the exact same thing, and this is what happened and how I came out from underneath it.
I found out that once you face your truth and you be honest with yourself, I used to be like, I faced the man in the mirror, and I said, why am I having all this trouble? Why am I not sufficient in these areas? And the little voice of God came and said, because that man in the mirror right there, you.
That's right.
You doing what you want to do, going where you want to go, and listening to what you want to listen to. Being a man doesn't come with a handbook. If it is, I'll be done bought to them. and by going by this, young men don't have no direction at all. I remember when I first got married and all, I couldn't let my wife know. I was terrified. I was man, I had no physical sisters, so I knew nothing.
Yeah,
God was his greatest teacher because you would never known.
That's right. And God was my greatest teacher too.
Yeah, he's been an amazing husband, father, and grandfather. So we're very grateful. We're talking to 15-year-old Brian. So as a 15-year-old, what is a recommendation to parents that you would say for them to pay attention to their teens? What is a huge recommendation? Because you work with many teens, and I'm going to go back. What is the youngest you've seen that has been on drugs?
11.
Alcohol?
Yeah,
11
years old. Yeah, and hooked on a substance that's a real powerful substance, right? So it wasn't just playing with a little bit of marijuana maybe, or drinking on the stealing something from the parents. This was somebody that had been addicted for a period of time and was seeking treatment.
Wow.
11 years old. But when you ask what do the parents need to do, and it's cliche, right? But it's just watch, but be present. Right? We're so easily distracted in this society today with phones and with Facebook and with social media. Sometimes we take ourselves and we're present in the same room, but we're separated, right?
Yes.
So how do you stay present in your child's life, right? And you have to be aware. You have to be aware of the things that are going on around him. And when you start to see the signs, right, that's where you have to kind of intervene, and be present and find out what's going on and dig, right? Because a lot of times, just like me, the child's not going to be honest about what's going on or how they're feeling.
Okay.
Right? So you have to push that a little bit, right?
Okay.
And that's the responsibility of a parent to a child, right? For me, I can tell you the signs that my mom saw. I made very good grades in school. I was very fortunate. A lot of that came easy to me. But I was playing soccer. I was successful. In school and relationships. When I started doing drugs and alcohol, things changed, right? I became more isolated, right? I started hanging out with people that my mom didn't know, right? And she could see signs that things were going on. I was the student body treasurer at North Augusta High School, and they asked me to stop doing that. They asked me to step aside and let somebody else do it because I wasn't participating, right?
Okay.
So at 15, 16 years old, I had the first consequence of drug addiction and alcoholism as far as a role that I had, right, and a responsibility that I put to the side. Then I had the knee surgeries and I couldn't play soccer anymore. So it was a difficult time for me. But watch your children, know what's going on in their life. Don't let social media, distract you or detach you from them.
Okay. Wow, this has been very good. And thank you so much for your transparency.
Absolutely.
We always like to give out our hotline for mental health because we never know who's listening. There's a 988 hotline. There's a 741 free 24/7 crisis counseling. And if you don't know, you can call 211 to get general community resources. Okay, Mr. Perry?
Yes. In life, we always have these distractions in our lives, and we need to take time out to listen to our kids because they really want to hear your voice, and they really want your advice.
That's right.
And you have to question yourself, am I living the life that I need to live, or I'm just existing? And in doing that, you can find a better future for yourself. And this has been Young People Nation. And remember, there is always hope.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross. He the #1 prospect. He the top boss. I was broke, I was empty. He the one that paid the cost. Really thought that I was cool. There was nothing like the Savior. Now it's time for the truth. The whole world been waiting. It's Young People Nation. 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 The whole world been waiting. Whatever you going through, I know what he gonna do. Don't matter the circumstance, we going back to the root. Keep going, keep going. Let that seed keep growing. You need peace and we know it. Now it's time to live holy. Young People Nation. You know what time it is. Young People Nation. Get ready, the time is here. Get ready, we vibing here. We about to let God in here. Young People Nation. It's Young People Nation. Yeah, do it for the heavens, you know where we going. Influenced by his love, you know we gotta show it. It's time to put the youth onto what God is doing. Cause I can tell you now, right now, that God is moving. It's Young People Nation.